Hey, everybody, welcome back to the ChatGTM podcast. This is Michael Beck and Chad Horn reporting to you live somewhere in the middle of April, somewhere before we're heading off to a road show, but, taking the time to talk to really interesting and super cool people. Before we get into that, Chad, good
Yeah,
morning. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. You said we work with cool people, and I was thinking that too. We work with cool people. We work with good people, and that really is why we're able to work as hard as we do. You know, and not really tire out too much is the quality of people we work with.
Yeah, I think Mark Twain had it partially right. If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. I'm sorry, I love what I do and I work my ass off. But it's the fuel that makes us work our asses off, right? It's the idea that we're helping great ideas come to life. And honestly, our guest here is somebody that I've grown to really care about as a professional and friend in the market because I see how hard she works. I see who she is, and I love the product that she supports today. And so, there's gonna be a little bit of gushing, guys, because Melissa Foss is our guest today. It's just somebody that just deserves a good gush about how great she is. And I'm gonna make her blush, so that's great. But it sounds like the ideal time for the read-in. So
Sure.
today's guest is Melissa Foss. She's the Chief Commercial Officer at Coco Robotics, a company that's bringing autonomous delivery into real world and commercial use. We get into what actually takes to turn robotics into a revenue engine, from earning trust on the ground to driving adoption with real customers to building go-to-market strategy where there is no existing playbook. Melissa brings a true operator's lens to it, and this is a deep dive into what GTM looks like when you're not just launching a product, you're proving an entirely new model works. Melissa, welcome to the show. I know you're already blushing. I'm sorry about that, but I'm not.
Yes. Wow. I feel the same about you guys, and thank you so much for the kind words. It's wonderful to be here with you today.
All day. You make it easy. So, Chad, you want to start us off here?
Sure. And Melissa, I have a lot of questions about Coco too, but let's just start there, right? So we were at your headquarters in Venice Beach, California. Talk us about what that night was, because like we just saw our, lens on it, taking pictures and video. But what was that like for you? And then what's happened since?
So that was such a spectacular night. Having been with Coco for really a year and a half now, very intimately, it was a little bit like having a child, where you've been anticipating something for a long time, and then when it finally happens, you just have this like childlike zest and pride. So when Coco 2 kind of ran up the stage and to hear our founder, co-founder, CEO, Zach talk about it, and then watch the audience react. I mean, everyone kind of had their cameras out and everybody was really excited. It just felt like a culminating moment and a step change in the ability Coco will have to really fulfill the ambition around making delivery more affordable, more accessible, safer, cleaner, better for cities and the environment.
I I know I talked to you guys before in your team leading up to that, and they talked about some promotions where the Cocos roll out and the lids open up and some stuff's inside of it. And I had no idea how impactful that felt when the army, I'm gonna say an army of Cocos came at the end of the event, came marching out of the warehouse, and they all individually kind of went into their own lanes, and then simultaneously all the lids opened up, and inside of it were the gifts that they had for all the guests that were there. That landed. That was really freaking cool. I absolutely love that.
And that was done, some autonomously. I mean, we didn't have 30 pilots there doing that. So it also was a great demonstration of the capability of AI.
Yeah, it's like a terrestrial drone show.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was really neat, and the thing that I had no idea going into that was about how important ad was to Coco and to people that wanna advertise, like, the idea that you can have a celebrity like Tom Hardy, and I'm talking about the Tom Hardy of Venom. In one of the campaigns you guys did, you wrapped your Cocos in Venom, and then when it got to people's doors, it would say, "Hurry up and get your food before I eat it." It was Tom Hardy that said that.
Yes. Yes.
How cool is that? Like, there's just a whole different level of experience, and then the way that your ad guy's talking about that these things are driving through neighborhoods where there are no ads.
That's right. Yeah. So does your audience know that you're a superhero fanboy?
Maybe,
A little
yeah,
bit.
Now they
yeah.
should.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
do. If they don't watch, they know now, but yeah, for sure. No, there's just so many surprises on it. Um, and thinking about that, right, is so let's talk about that. So when people are seeing Coco for the first time, what are you actually building and why does it matter now, right, for them? For the first time, if they're hearing this.
Okay. Yeah. Um, so so I would say this is true for current Cocoa, and the Cocoa 2 model just takes our ability to deliver to the next level. But really what it's about is I like to talk about it as democratizing the convenience of food delivery because a lot of what Cocoa does is it helps it be more accessible and affordable, that occasion. You don't have to tip the robot. The food is put into the robot by the restaurant. It stays locked up until it's delivered to the consumer. So not only do you have security, but you also maintain the presentation, which is, a big part of enjoying your food. It's sort of like,
Yeah.
how does it look and how does it smell when you first get it? And then also just making the that occasion more sustainable from like a society and community level because it's a little crazy to use like a 5,000-pound car to deliver a 5-pound bag of food. So what Kogo does is it's really kind of like
That really
well,
is. Yeah, that just
it's
sounds
nuts,
absurd. It
right?
sounds absurd.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and cocoa is, like, designed for purpose, it's like it's a good size, it can fit, like, 4 extra large or 7 large pizzas, so it's really got the right size, super efficient, 100% electric power, so no emissions, takes up a lot less room, you can fit, like, 20 Cocos in a parking spot, so it's just much more elegant and efficient and, thoughtful way to still bring consumers the convenience that they want, and with the very fast delivery time as well. So not asking consumers to compromise.
I just realized too, Chad, I don't know if you agree when you do delivery. I don't remember, outside of maybe some pizza guys, that I've
Mhm.
ever seen my bags inside of some kind of warming, cooling, temperature controlled thing. They're sitting on the car seat next to the
Yeah.
driver, right? I have to imagine that that affects the quality of the product. If you're saying there's a 10-minute drive, it's on an insulated container, you're not going to get that same quality. Or I like my food hot, my cold food cold. We all do.
Exactly, and cocoa is insulated so that it does preserve food at the temperature that it's intended to be, and the temperature kinda comes out of the restaurant. And it's also, like, it's not batching can also compromise quality sometimes, and that's a fairly common practice, and cocoa doesn't batch. Our goal was to make our robot very cost effective so that it's affordable to basically always go straight from the restaurant to the consumer.
Mm, mm.
So and yeah, and so and it's a challenge. Like there's actually more demand for delivery than there are drivers to support it. So this is also just going to help kind of meet the demand that's out there and continues to grow.
Yeah, especially late night, right?
Yes, yes, we work with Taco Bell and we do a ton of late night Taco Bell orders.
I wonder why that is.
Yes, yeah. It's something I never really thought about it, but I've had a lot of people talk to me as well that they actually they kind of prefer dealing with the robot in a lot of cases versus somebody that they don't know. So they kind of like that safety aspect or that
Yeah.
feeling of safety aspect. And same thing with the merchants. They really appreciate that Coco declutters their outlet. It's kind of quiet. It arrives. It's very quiet. It arrives sort of as the food is ready. So they're not, they don't take up spaces. They don't clog congestion in the streets. And the merchants really like sort of how it's helping to preserve that in-outlet experience for
Yeah.
their guests.
Melissa, correct me on the nuances here, but one of the things I took away from the Coco 2 launch was that it represented a shift from some degree of human guided robotics going on to full autonomous. And what are the impacts on that from like the unit economics or even the speed at which you can enter a new city?
Sure. Yeah, great question. The Coco 2 is designed to be fully autonomous. Now, I do want to say having a human in the loop will always be something Coco embraces because you're always going to have edge cases or situations where you are going to want the capability of human to kind of come in and deal with a certain situation. But and our human in the loop has been training, helping to train the robots to become more autonomous. But really the key to make this as affordable as possible for merchants and our partners and consumers is to elevate the amount of AI that is driving the robot. And that's what Coco 2 really enables. So through a combination of cameras, solid state LiDAR, cameras inside the unit as well, and the AI navigation capability that we're building in-house at Coco, that is really what's going to unlock the ability to really get much more fully autonomous. In addition, Coco 2 is built with more speed and robustness, like weather robustness, different suspension system, kind of more robust all the way around. So that's going to allow us to not only operate on sidewalks, but also bike lanes and roads. And the value of that is, today we keep a fairly tight radius from restaurant to delivery point because we want the food to get there in a good amount of time and at the right temperature. Once we can operate on bike lanes of roads, we can extend the radius that we can serve. So we're really excited about that.
It's and when you talk about edge or fringe cases or edge cases, it really blew my mind after talking with Zach for a while, your CEO, and then a gentleman, Les Carpus, that was he's the global head of NVIDIA Physical AI. He was at your event.
Yep.
Like, so, like, I mean, from the street, we look at this and go, "There's this thing doodadding around town, and it's got some brains in it, and it's trying to figure out how to get where it's going." That's not how it works, guys. I mean, there is a whole virtual world this thing lives in that is running millions and millions of miles of digital traversing through
And
cities.
simulations. Yes.
Simulation, yeah, and that's being powered by your partners at NVIDIA. This simulation this thing lives in that's answering all the questions before it ever comes up to that obstacle. That is mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. We have some amazing engineering capabilities and AI just brilliance at Coco that has really created step change capability in this space. And it is wonderful to have this kind of simulated environment because you could just run that so fast and help teach the system so much faster versus the time it would take to kind of run it in the real world.
It's basically like the golden ticket every parent wants is, "I wish I could save my kid from all the things I've ran through myself, but the kid can't be there to learn it." And so now this thing actually gets all the lessons digitally before it has to encounter it physically.
I mean, I would have loved to have parenting simulations, like, teach me how to be a parent before I
Right.
actually have to be a parent. That'd be great.
I've done a million children before I got to
That's right.
you.
I know what I'm doing.
So thinking about that, what's the biggest signal to you, Melissa, that this isn't just innovation, but it's a scalable business, right?
So
'Cause it is a startup by every definition of the term in all the best ways. But you're betting big on this.
yes, yes. I was very intentional in terms of the choice to join Coco because I have been paying attention to last mile delivery since really Grubhub and Seamless kind of put it on the map back in the early 2010s. And and I knew that the value chain was the challenge. Like there just was too much cost in this chain for it to really be as great as it can be in terms of a convenience for people and a way for merchants to reach more guests. And so when I met Zach and Brad, the co-founders, and they talked about their ambition, including like dollar delivery, I was like, this is actually a way this challenge can be solved. And what we see now is we're now in 7 cities, so we're operating in LA, Miami, Chicago, Jersey City. We're opening up San Jose next week, which is super exciting. We'll have more Northeast US cities coming this year, and then we do operate internationally, and we're expecting a fair amount of expansion internationally as well. So that's one signal of yes, we are a startup. We have done over 500,000 deliveries across 1,000,000 miles in weather from steaming hot in Miami and raining all the time to like freezing cold in Helsinki, Finland, and Chicago. So that's one signal. And the second signal really is what I'm seeing is enterprise restaurant brands beginning to really get into this space. So we work now with Taco Bell, White Castle, Little Caesars, Shake Shack. And when you see big enterprise brands like that starting to get into the game, that's when you know you're moving from novelty to really cementing as new infrastructure for the
They're
industry.
they're definitely risk averse.
I'm glad
Yes.
you brought up the brands, Melissa, because wanted to ask about that. Right, so they operate on razor thin margins at times. So beyond the cool factor of the robot, like, what are the hard numbers for the restaurants? And I'm guessing in terms of savings, but if you could talk about beyond that, like as you think about the next few years, how does this translate into even growth and new sales?
What I think we'll see in the next few years. So today we work through partners. So we work with DoorDash, Volt, Uber Eats. We'll be working with Deliveroo overseas. And so we obviously don't control the end pricing to the consumer. Sorry, to the merchant. We do have the value to the consumer, which is that they don't have to tip the robot. Although we have had people throw dollars in the robot, but we discourage tips. My expectation is that as we get to the scale, the price that the merchants have to pay for third-party services will continue to come down. And some of those efficiencies will get passed on. That's really our goal.
Awesome.
So, we're building scale as we go right now. So there's a lot of like experimentation and sort of like learning the space and tweaking the model so it works really well. But That is our goal, is to help make this more sustainable for merchants, more affordable for them.
Let's talk about go-to-market advantage here. What's Coco figured out about bringing robotics to the market that others probably underestimated or are underestimating?
The local city operations and the government approvals is 2 areas where I would say we've really learned how to do this. With government approvals, it's what we've learned is it's really kind of a case by case basis, and every city, every country has kind of their own processes. And so it's really important to understand those. And the position that Coco takes is we really want to be embraced by the community and we want to only do things with permission. And so we will even go above what is sort of technically required. So using Chicago as an example, you can launch robots in Chicago today based on a higher level regulation, but our choice at Coco was to also engage the aldermen. So alderman by alderman, kind of make sure that we're being a partner to the community and understanding what's important to them and what watchouts they want us to be cautious for. And
Mm.
so we've really kind of nailed that down, as well as how you have a workforce that helps sustain the robots in the markets, because you do have times when you have to deploy or undeploy or do maintenance or upgrades. So really kind of figuring out how you scale an operation in multiple places across time zones, across geography. It's great because we basically operate 24/7 around the globe. And so that's one advantage we offer, where we do have support kind of around the clock, no matter where you are, in multiple languages.
Marrying a question to that, since you're talking about that, is Coco deployed strictly from Venice Beach, California, or are there satellites or that are offering some redundancies around the country, around the globe where these Cocos are?
Yes, we position them in multiple places, typically in any city that we're in. And they kind of go home at the end of the night to somewhere pretty convenient to them. They don't all traverse back to, a distant single place. We've got kind of embedded infrastructure that keeps it operating very efficiently.
Very cool. Chad?
I'm not sure how to phrase the question, but it gets to this idea of tipping point, right? So when you have a certain number of robots, or you're in a certain number of cities, there's a certain number of restaurants using Coco regularly, it gets to this point of ubiquity. What are the tipping points you're looking forward to where things substantially move because you got to that level?
Sure. I mean, we have over 3,500 merchants that we serve today already. So we're very entrenched in the field. What I think will be great to see, and that will serve as a great tipping point, is when, an innovation forward enterprise chain restaurant really gets serious about deploying robots throughout their system. They see the value it can create for the guests, the value it can create in the outlet, the value it can create for the merchant, how easy it is to use, and they scale it. And
Mm.
that may not mean every outlet. That may be like, okay, I'm going to choose my urban core outlets where minimum wages are probably really high, which tends to drive up that cost of the delivery driver.
Yeah.
That's when I think you're going to see it. And I believe those merchants will really benefit from a sales perspective, and then others will want to compete.
What tends to click for customers once they see or experience Coco in action?
So we were just with Leon Devoyan with Dave's Hot Chicken, which we're
Check it. What's up, Leon, if you're watching?
That's right, which we're looking forward to, starting to work with Dave and his outlets in some of his markets, or Leon and his outlets in some of his markets, is how simple it is. So, I think before people really see it, it can feel overwhelming and complicated, but then Davi, who works on my team, will go meet up with Leon, and they'll go to one of their outlets, and they'll be like, "Here's how it works." And it literally takes, like, 30 seconds to train someone, like, "Okay, you take the food, you press the button on the robot, you put the food in the robot automatically closes and goes. Like, that's all you have to do. And there's a lot of turnover, in the staff of any restaurant. And so it's important for it to be really simple to be able to use. So, when we showed that to Leon, he was like, this is really easy.
Feels like you get rid of some of those shelves in the restaurant too, that's stacking up all that stuff for delivery drivers because 'cause you're just walking out to the Coco and dropping it in, is that right?
Yes, which is another like benefit for quality, right? Like
Yeah.
there isn't this sort of staging, like waiting for a driver to show up. It's sort of like it is hot and ready and it goes in the cocoa and it goes.
Now I want Dave's Hot Chicken, darn it.
I know, I know. I love Dave's Hot Chicken. My kids love Dave's Hot Chicken.
Chad?
Well, beyond food, even, I mean, it seemed like Coco 2 was being positioned as like a general purpose, vehicle for deliveries. Talk about that. How do you envision Coco 2 is being used to deliver other kinds of products.
Yes, that's a great point. Thank you so much for mentioning that. I was actually talking about this at CES. I was on a panel in January, and the question was around like, well, what's the just of cocoa? Like, what would you like people to not think cocoa is just?
Mm,
And I said, cocoa is not just for sidewalks. I already talked about we'll be expanding into bike lanes and roads. And Coco is not just for restaurant food delivery. So already we work with DoorDash, Dashmart to deliver essentials. And we can expand really into any vertical. A last mile delivery, like people want things on demand. So last mile delivery of anything is really our ambition. We
okay.
started with restaurants because it's our founders love to like do the hardest thing first. So they started with restaurants, but sort of once you can prove out the restaurant occasion where you have food that's temperature sensitive and people are going to consume it immediately, once you crack that, think about all the things you can do.
Oh my goodness.
We're talking with a retailer right now, which I can't name as confidential, but they're looking at the potential to be able to deliver merchandise from their stores in the mall directly to consumer on demand. Like there is many, many times when I have a trip plan for like tomorrow and I need something to wear to a show or something like that. And I don't have time to like go shop and I don't have time to order something from an online marketplace.
Or you left your laptop at home.
Exactly. So imagine if I could like, go to retailer.com and be like, I need this pair of shoes or this dress and you can get it to me in an hour and a half. Like, that's going to just expand sales as well as serve consumers in a way that they want to be served. So I am really excited to continue to expand into categories beyond restaurant delivery.
As Chief Commercial Officer, Melissa, where do you spend most of your time to drive growth right now?
So I focus a great deal on cultivating and striving for mutual growth accomplishments with our partners. So DoorDash and Uber Eats domestically, Deliveroo, Bolt internationally, as well as Uber. And that's really the focus. We want to be a great partner. We want to collectively understand the value we can create for merchants and consumers. And we're still learning. It is still a relatively new space, although Coco has been operating since 2020, so we have learned a lot, but we still are learning and we want to co-create and co-design to a large degree. This is why also I always encourage like an enterprise restaurant, like just do this in a few outlets. Like what are you going to learn? What's unique to your operations and your how you approach your business that we can make sure that we're accommodating in the design and the protocols and the tech behind Coco. So that's really where I spend a lot of my time.
Mm, and on the road.
Yes. A lot of yes. I help to ambassador the Coco message and get it out there so people know this is available because I've seen a step change. My partners have referenced a step change and we're in a place of real curiosity last year, particularly with enterprise restaurants, of like, oh, this is interesting, novelty. And now it's really moved into like, oh, this is actually going to work. I think I need to learn about this and I need to get ready because it's a transition, it's a disruption that's coming. And that's kind of my encouragement to people is like it's very easy to do. Like if you work with a third party partner like Uber Eats and DoorDash, you essentially just need to tell them you'd like to enable Coco delivery in a few outlets and learn and, help shape the solution as we go into the future.
Awesome. Speaking of learning, so with as many robots as are out there and driving as much as they do, things will happen in public. And so I'm curious how you manage the PR aspects of that and brand trust when these learning moments happen potentially, in front of millions of people.
Yes. Yes, and things do happen, much like they happen with other modes of delivery, right?
Mm.
One of the things we like is that our robots are very lightweight, and so we don't have to worry about someone getting seriously harmed by a robot when anything goes wrong. But if we have an issue, we do have escalation systems that like immediately alert people at Coco and to the point I was raising earlier of really having figured out how to have remote infrastructure everywhere we are able to dispatch someone to address issues right away in most cases. And one of the challenges that we've seen and learned from is sometimes we can have a connectivity issue with the robots. And so with Coco 2, it will actually have onboard commute that can sort of bridge, call it a 10-second connectivity delay or something like that to help prevent even, incidences from happening. So you got to be ready. You
Yeah.
have to anticipate it. You have to have your SOPs in place. You have to make sure everyone's clear on those SOPs, and we take all of that really, really seriously because operating safely is really the most important thing we do.
Uh, oh, shoot, I didn't see the time, it flew by. We're getting close to time to land the plane. Melissa, this has been great. There's so many things that every time we talk to with each other, I learn something new. Before we get into the rapid fire round so people can anchor on it, where is Coco gonna be next that people can experience it as a if they're interested as a merchant, they wanna see what it is, to see it in action?
Yeah, so yeah, that's a great question. So we will actually be we're gonna have a robot at Herbivore. We're gonna have a Coco robot there, which I actually just found that out. And we're going to be at the food on what is Beck thinking
I'm
here?
thinking about a giant dinosaur called Herbivore. Heard before.
You haven't heard of Herbivore?
No, well, there's so many things that you learn about that you could be in the industry for years and to trip over something that was just giant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Herbivore comes from the concept of like curbside pickup.
Yeah.
So Herbivore. We will be at Food on Demand, and we will be in the Coca-Cola booth at NRA, the National
Oh,
Restaurant
there's our friend
Association.
Angela Diffley and, what's her name? Jenny Z. They're
Oh,
at
right.
Right. Yes, 2 of my favorite people,
very,
Coca-Cola.
very cool. I love it. Well, let's go ahead and do our rapid fire questions we got. Melissa, these are intended to be easy and kind of fun.
Good. I was
And to
like,
see
"Take
see
it
what you
easy."
if they're too silly, you can just say pass, and so let's see where we get here.
Oh, boy.
Alright, here we go. So, what's the most unhinged human behavior you've seen around a Coco robot?
I have seen someone try to lift the robot and throw it over a bridge, but they failed. Everyone thinks that our robots are like scooters, but the fact is they're not. They're light, but they're not so light that you can pick them up. You generally need 2 people to pick and they're awkward. They're, like, just big enough where it's like you can't just lift it. And so that was pretty entertaining just kinda seeing the guy struggle and then seeing the people watch by him like, "What are you doing?" So that was a good one.
Okay. Have you ever seen or has anybody on the team ever seen somebody trying to talk to a Coco as if it was gonna understand their voice?
Have not seen that. Doesn't mean it hasn't happened, but if it has, I'm not aware of it. And
Alright.
probably I can almost guarantee you it has happened.
If Coco had a dating profile, what's in the bio?
Ooh. Spunky, fun, spontaneous, fit for your lifestyle, not highfalutin, willing to serve. How's that?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. That's funny.
Yeah, by the way, I have no experience writing a dating profile. I was, like,
Well,
married
yeah,
before all that came
you're a
out.
happily married woman for many, many years. So yeah, this is it was a swing. I might have to ask Logan or somebody on the team that's
Yes.
out. If a Coco gets stuck, who panics first? The robot, the customer, or your team?
If there's a human engaged with the robot at that moment, I wouldn't even say they panicked, like, they're moving into the protocols of, like, "Now what do I do in this situation?" And then the next person engaged is the escalation point.
Okay. This is a little silly one. If Coco robots could talk, what would they complain about first?
Ooh, that's a good one. They probably complain about, the hours between, call it 3 AM and 6 AM when they're not doing anything. They'd be like, "I'm really bored. Can you please find some use cases to fill these extra hours in the day for me? I like to work."
Love it. Are people more excited or skeptical the first time they see or interact with Coco?
That's very individual. So, some people, the majority of people are really excited. And you see the TikTok videos, you sort of see the affinity that the robots create with the communities. So by and large, people are excited. It's novel, it's fun, it's unexpected. But then also, it's changed. So some people are like, wait, what? Like, how do I do this? I'm intimidated. And then they see like how easy it is to use, and we overcome that really quickly.
If you had to describe Coco in one sentence to a stranger, probably do it on a flight lots of times, what do you say?
I say, imagine like a cooler on wheels that can deliver foods from restaurant on demand very quickly, very safely, and very sustainably.
You actually did that in one sentence. Most people run on. I was waiting for you to say what I was gonna that's not a sentence.
Well, I've had enough PR training. I know how to speak at a sound like
What's the city where Coco works really well?
Jersey City.
Yeah?
We are crushing it. Yes, the operators there are amazing. We just we're studying the market right now because neither us nor our partners are quite clear on like why is this city going so well, but it is crushing it, and we are really looking forward to taking learnings from there and scaling them into our other markets.
Nice. And here's our last question. What's been your favorite this is the future moment at Coco so far?
Ask me what do you mean? Ask again.
What's been your you're there, like, "Oh my god, the future is now. I can't believe we're here. This is the future." What's that moment that you go, "Holy crap." Mine was when I was hearing Les talk about the simulations,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
It's yours.
Yeah, I would have to say just that whole Coco 2 launch event and just, like, I can't really even represent in words, like, literally how I felt just seeing that Coco 2 going up on stage and seeing the reaction. I was like, "Wow, it's here." Like, this is the model that is going to create the step change in scale around robotic delivery, autonomous robotic delivery.
Love it, love it.
But,
That feeling right there that you can't
yeah.
articulate is exactly it. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yes, yes, we're doing this. Now this is real. This is we are going to do this. So
Fantastic.
really exciting.
Well, Melissa, it's always such a pleasure to hang out with you and talk to you. I'm looking forward to Food on Demand. We get to hang out again and see Coco in action and get Coco in the wild at the National Restaurant Association show. I have this thing in my head. There's another company that's going to be at NRA. The Miso Robotics folks are doing their Flippy fry robot, right?
Yeah.
We might
Yes.
have to do a drive-by with Coco to have Coco talk to Flippy or just have this moment in time where these 2 techs are in some way interacting. It's just like it's like
Absolutely.
yeah, so,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. We
super
made
excited.
I was at NRA last year and we made a lot of friends with our fellow robotic and automation friends in the industry.
Yeah, you guys are just geeking out on this awesome
We
stuff.
are, we are. We're
Yay! That's what I love. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today for Miss Melissa Fahs, the Chief Commercial Officer at Coco Robotics, a fantastic executive, a great human being, and a cool personal friend who I celebrate in the market today. Chad, thanks for joining us this morning. And for us, we're off to the to the restaurant RLC, the Restaurant Leadership Conference in Phoenix, Arizona. This will be a look back by that point. We've already been there, so look for news coming out of what that show was for the companies we're working with, because all the companies, much like Coco Robotics that we work with and support, are ones that we love on the marketplace because we believe they have real utility. They're doing real things to make real changes in our world that we need that will make life easier in the digital age. And so this is fantastic. And Melissa, your team is leading the charge in a very fresh direction, which we love. So for now, everybody, this has been the Chat GTM podcast with Melissa Foss, Chief Commercial Officer at Coco Robotics. We'll see you guys in the next one. And almost forgot. Random acts of kindness, sprinkle that stuff everywhere. I wouldn't be here right now with Melissa if that weren't the case. Share that love with people. You'll make their day much better. Take care.
I love that. Thanks, Chad and Beck. Bye.
Yeah.